Hello there. I am so glad that you're with me tonight because I am excited. Paranormal experience is often about, ghosts, hauntings, the weird stuff I find when I travel, that kind of thing. But tonight, I'm really pumped because it's a Bigfoot show, a cryptid show, and I love cryptids. I have yet to find one, but I have watched friends who did, and I have been with somebody who was looking, and he said that we found something. I was too busy getting to the truck. So there's that. So, but anyway, this is going to be amazing. And, I'm really pretty into this because this is Darrell Denton. He is from Tennessee, so he sounds like me. So y'all are going to be doubly Southern tonight. And he is Bigfoot believers and other creatures. I think that that's pretty cool. And that is a .com. You can go check it out. He's been a mayor, so he's not afraid to dip that toe into Neverland. So that's going to be interesting too. But anyway, I want to bring him in. He's from Tennessee. He's really interesting. When I found him, I thought, now I might go into the woods with somebody with this background because I'm real picky about that. I'm real picky about who I ghost hunt with too. So anyway, let's bring Darrell on. Hello.
Hello, good evening, Catherine. How are you?
I'm fine. You can call me Kat.
All right, Kat, that works.
All right.
So like we're from the South and we talk that way. Yeah.
I know, right? Could it be that we are?
Yeah, appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you coming on because after talking to you, I'm surprised that you're not head down on your desk. You have been a busy man this week.
I really stay pretty busy. I've been real blessed in my life to be have people that like to hear what I do and hear what I've done and talk about my experiences and my encounters. And I've done a lot of shows over the last 10, 15 years. So, I always feel honored for anyone to ask me, and I will try to always respond and be on someone's show, even if they're newer to the great one person that everybody knows. Either way, I'm trying to intimidate and be myself around them and tell them my experiences.
Well, people like you are what keep the interest in these fields alive, because no matter what we do, I'm primarily a ghost hunter. I travel internationally to do that. I'm really fortunate with the things and places that I get to see and do. But it's really when we can have experiences, and I mean yours are so vast that fascinate people, and what you do does. It's a little scary too. I have a friend that does this up in the Kettles, and she's a woman, and I've known her online. I've known her for about 20 years. I've met her in person several times too when we would travel to the same place. And I just think that to me, that's more frightening than ghosts because they're fast, they're strong, they can be big or small, and you find all kinds of things, not just, like Harry and the Hendersons kind of Bigfoot.
Yeah, it's been a journey. I have had a lot of experiences and been very fortunate on some of those. There's been some times when I was what I felt like I was definitely in danger, in a dangerous situation. And, as long as you have the power of Christ in your soul, I know that to be a fact. These creatures know who Jesus Christ is. And they do get alarmed, and you can see the reaction when you mention that name if you have to. And normally I don't, but I have had occasions where I use that name. And my great friend Scott Carpenter helped me rebuke a couple rogue Bigfoot that attacked my farm back in 2020 in an area that I was researching. And He helped me rebuke them, and I had no clue. I'd been dealing with these things for 2.5 months, banging on the side of my house every night and tearing my property up and scaring my horses absolutely to death. And they killed all my cats and did quite a bit of damage to my place. And they were banging on my wall at 2 o'clock in the morning on the side of my house. And it went on for almost 2.5 months, and I was ready to just fire on them. And I waited up every night because I knew it was going to start. And I'd run outside, they'd be gone, and then they'd come back.
Yeah.
And I learned from him that if you have that in your heart, your belief, then you have a way to stop these creatures or rid these creatures from harming or harassing you, and it works. So
I have never heard that. I'm glad that you said that.
Yeah, if you're a believer, I'm not a religious fanatic. I'm not one that attends church every week like I probably should, and I'm not one that goes out and preaches to the public. But I do believe in Christ, and He is my Savior, and I also believe in the great spirits from my American Native heritage. So, I have kind of a combination of watchers who watch over me, and as long as you have that in your heart, you always have a defense with these creatures.
The reason that jumped at me is that I had a rural Alabama client for a ghost hunt. I mean, I call it paranormal investigation, especially when I'm doing a residential, right? Because those people are already scared to death. But the thing that was happening, amongst others, was she was absolutely convinced that boys were coming and banging on her house, and that they were banging on it with metal rods. And, never anything on a video. Her kids, put some cameras out. And so very similar to what you were describing.
These creatures, for sure, will stay away from a trail camera or any type of camera. They don't like them, and if they see one, they're going to stay away from it. And if they can, they're going to twist it off the tree or whatever you got it mounted to. And if they can, they will stomp it into the ground. I've lost quite a few cameras back in the earlier day when I was doing this. And I learned a lot from being around these creatures, what they do and don't like. The biggest thing about these creatures is they have a unnatural ability to pick up what your intentions are inside you. And if they feel you have good intentions, then you're allowed to come into their home as long as you're not aggressive toward them and show them respect. And I always tell people, never go in the woods by yourself. I used to do it a lot, but I wouldn't do it now. I know what's out there. A lot more things out there than what I knew at that time. And some of these creatures, some of these Bigfoot, they're not friendly. There's different types of them. I believe I've seen what I believe is to be 4 or 5 different types, and some of them will harm you. Some of them, I believe, will kill you. Not sure you're not on the menu for some of them. So I wouldn't tell anybody to think all of them are good. They're just like people, us. There's good and bad in everything. So you have to be very cautious when you go into their area. And people message me. I get literally, not exaggerating, but at least 30, 40 messages a week from text or messenger. People want to know they got creatures on their property. Can I come out, or what I think they are? And they send me pictures and all type of things. And some of the stuff I see is pretty alarming, and some of it's really not anything. But just be very cautious if you're into this thing and you're trying to research. Remember one thing: you never find Bigfoot; he finds you.
Yeah. Well, I think you'd probably be a much better woodsman than I am. So,
I don't know that I'm a great woodsman. I just have a lot of experiences out there. I've been doing this now pretty steady. And I haven't researched last year like I normally do because, my teammates, Ron Moorhead, my best friend, he's one of my teammates, and he just moved out of state to another area, and he's a little ways off. And then my other best friend, Martin Groves, has been real sick all year. He's just now gotten healthy enough where he can get back out and do things. And
I'm glad
Mike
he did.
Smith, Mike Smith, my other buddy, he did a documentary with Martin and I with Small Town Monsters a couple of years ago about the
Yeah.
dog man that tried to attack us in the LBL. And, he's a great guy. And we're all getting together here pretty soon. We got a documentary coming up, and I'm looking real forward to doing that with all my buddies again. I spent a couple days with Martin last month at his house, and glad to see him up getting around good. And it's going to be pretty interesting this year. We got a lot of things that we got planned. So it ought to be some new experiences and some new things to talk about.
Well, I think that sounds like fun. And I am glad that he's better, because it's terrible when your friends are sick and you can't be there too. But
yeah, I kind of live in 2 states too, so I'm back and forth, couple weeks here, a couple weeks there. So that kind of makes it a little difficult at times too for us to. It's the first year I've had this to go on like this last year, so it was a little adapting to all of us trying to get squared away with that because we weren't used to that. So we're used to going into the woods like every month and staying a couple 3 or 4 nights, sometimes a week, and certain areas we go to. And I'm not haven't researched as much as I normally do, but I'm running more into Dogman now than I'm into Bigfoot, and there's just a lot of things I'm learning about them that took me a long time to learn about the Bigfoot. And it all started for me in November the 6th of 92. That's when I had my first sighting, and led me into this path, and I've been on it ever since.
what was your first sighting?
That was November the 6th, 1992.
But I mean, what did you see?
Well, I was on my grandfather's farm, and I'd hunted on my grandfather's farm all the time. He lives in rural Cannon County, about 10 miles from Woodbury in the mountains, and I hunted there all my life, and practically grew up there. I lived there when my parents were working in town. He was 92 miles from Nashville, and they come home on the weekends. And until I started school, I was there, and then in the summertime, I was there to help him with his farming and his crops. And we were pretty close, and I knew the farm pretty well. But it's a large farm, and there was a lot of large farms around him, and it's such a rural area. It's just gravel and dirt road getting to his house, and no houses around us. We're in the middle of nowhere, and I hear all kinds of creatures out there at night or in the woods, but I never thought there was anything that lived out there like that. He never mentioned anything about any creatures like that. My grandmother was a little spiritual, and she had some things she would tell me, but we were kids there. We had to come in at dark because the boogeyman would get us, and
Right.
I found out later on what the boogeyman was, but you think
Welcome to being Southern, right?
Because you think it's just an old myth and something to scare you a little bit to get you to get in the house, when it's time to come in. But there's a lot of things that live in the woods, and my particular account there was I've been deer hunting there for a long time, but me and 3 of my buddies went up there every year. We've been going at that time probably 4 or 5 years. Opening day of black powder or muzzleloader, and we'd stay a week. I'd pull my camper up there with my truck and park it next to my grandfather's barn, and we'd hook it up with electricity. And a couple of them would follow along in the truck and pull our 4-wheelers. We all had one, and we'd set up camp, and we'd be there from opening day was on a Monday, and we'd get there on Sunday, and we'd go out and scout our area out for the next morning, and we would hunt for the next Sunday. Then we would head home. We'd be there 8 days. I've been hunting there, never seen anything. We all got deer every year. It was a real good area to hunt. Nobody was around. Nobody hunted around there. Just a lot of farmers, but they were a mile or 2 away from my granddad. And that particular tree up, I asked my granddad, where's the best place to get a trophy deer, Granddad? He said, he pointed off the back of his porch. You see that hill with that tree on it, the bent tree, and I remember the bent tree, and go to that mountain, go to the other side of it, and the bottom of it there'll be a creek. There used to be an old grist mill there, and that was my home place where I was born at. You'll see the remnants of an old house, and it's fallen in now. There's some tin, and there'll be a fireplace still standing. It's in a clearing in the middle of the woods next to the creek there, and there was a grist mill there when I was a boy. And so I'd been there one time years before, but by car, and then we walked a mile in from the road, a gravel road, but not through the woods that way. And he said, go there, and you'll probably have a chance at a big deer, because nobody's probably been in there in 30 or 40 years. And
Oh, wow.
that was my grandfather's land. He owned it, but he hadn't been there a long time. He lived in that house for about 70 years. So he was 92 at that time, but he looked like he was 60, and he was still doing active farming. And, the next morning, went to the camper that night. Next morning, he came and knocked on the side of the camper, and he said, boy, get up, time for you to go. And the day before, I took my stand over those hills, and I'd found the creek and put my tree stand or climbing stand I carried on my back around the tree, and it was ready to go. And I'd climbed up in it and cut a few limbs off where I could hang a few things behind me, and my safety strap was already up there around the tree. And, I was headed that way. And that morning I went behind my grandfather's house through a gate and crossed about a 200-yard field, 200-yard wide field to my grandfather kept his cows in that field. And on the other side was a wire fence with 2 or 3 strands of barbed wire, probably 6.5, 7 foot tall. And I climbed over the fence and jumped over it into the leaves. And a lot of leaves, makes a lot of noise when you're moving. And I started walking up the hill a little bit, and these hills are like 45-degree angles. I'm not exaggerating. Yeah. They're just straight up almost. And I had to cross 3 of those to get to where I was going. It was a good hour walk, and in the dark, and I had my flashlight, and I'd hunted all the farm, but not that far in. And I started walking up the hill, and I heard something to the left of me. It sounded like a man walking. And it kind of got my attention because I knew none of my buddies were there. They were all hunting in different areas. We had about a 5-mile area that we hunted, and they were all in different areas, nowhere near me. And I knew my granddad wouldn't have anybody in there. And I stopped and shined my flashlight, and I didn't see anything. And I heard it walk a little bit more, and it stopped. And I shined it again. I didn't see anything. And so I just kind of hurried on up and got on over the first and second hill, went down to the third hill, and I got down to the creek, and I followed the creek around to the left, and I found my tree stand there on a tree on the side of the hill. And, it's straight up on a 45-degree angle. I'm almost overlooking the creek, but I get in my tree stand, about to get in it, and I hear something on top of the hill, and I hear something walking again. It was a heavy walk, and I thought, is that a cow or a horse in here? And I shined a flashlight up on the hill again. I didn't see anything, and then I didn't hear it walk anymore. So I was a little startled. It was on my mind thinking, what's in here? Somebody is in here hunting. And I got in my tree stand, put my my feet in the climbing part, and I sat down on the back part, and I climbed up the tree. And I got a rope tied to my belt loop. It's 28 foot long, and it's tied to a loop, a hanger, a metal loop that I put my gun on, and that way I can pull it up when I get up there. And I get to the 28-foot mark. That's about where I like to be, up high enough where they can't smell me or see me really good. And I leaned back and kind of dug the blade into the tree, and I reached behind me and got the safety strap put up under my arms, and hung my fanny pack on I remember it like it was yesterday. It was hung my fanny pack on a limb I'd cut off up there that had my powder horn in it and my Hornady bullets and my firing caps. And other limb I hung my binoculars and my lunch, and I was ready to hunt. I kind of leaned back and let it dig into the tree real good, and I had a little bar in front of me that pulled up, and it came up to about right under my neck as I'm sitting down. And then all of this camo fell out of the little bar. It was rolled up in it, and it covered my feet up all the way under my neck. And I'm sitting there waiting for the sun to come up, and I'm not hearing anything. I didn't hear that whatever that was walking in the leaves anymore, but it was still on my mind a little bit. And
sure.
I was waiting till the sun come up, and it was a real foggy morning when the sun did start coming up. The creek there was about 10 or 12 foot wide. It was 2 or 3 feet deep in the middle, and the fog was real thick on it. I couldn't see the clearing on the other side, and I just watched the fog, and I listened to the squirrels and everything run around under me and around the leaves like they normally do. It was a normal morning. It was a sunny morning, and but it was foggy, and I couldn't see across the creek yet. And I guess it was about 8 o'clock or so. It cleared out pretty good where I could see real well on the other side of the creek there, the clearing, and that's where I went the day before. I went across the creek there, and there's a game trail right on top of the creek bank there on the opposite side, and
Sure, yeah.
And there was a lot of deer tracks in it, and they'd been milling around over there. There was some rubs and some scrapes too, where a buck deer had been rubbing their antlers, and there was about a 12-foot out limb from an oak, or I can't remember if it was an oak or a maple tree. I'm 6'5", almost 6'6", and when I reach all the way up, I can reach a little over 8 foot. So I hung my drag rag from the day before. I'd hung it up there, and that's a rag you put with an elastic band around your boot. When you walk in the woods, it covers up the human scent, but it leaves what's called a doe and estrus, kind of a lure to lure a buck deer or male deer in. And I'd hung it on that branch, and it's about 8 foot in the air, and he'd been there all night, and he kind of saturated down that hollow there, and hopefully some buck would pick that scent up. And I'm looking at that. I can see it on the tree limb, and I'm kind of looking all right over the creek onto the game trail from the angle I am, even though I'm on the other side of it a pretty good ways. And about a little bit after looking around and hearing the deer, hearing the deer move around over there, when they came out and crossed the bank, there was 3 of them. There was a large doe, and there was 2 who looked like yearlings with the doe. And they were walking around just eating acorns. There was a big acorn crop that year, and they were just milling around through the leaves like deer do and acting normal. They walked right down the game trail and walked around. They were in that clearing. That's where all the acorns were. There was a large tree there that they'd fallen off of. And I watched them for a while, and then all of a sudden I looked up, and the large doe was staring right to the left of me. And to the left of me was a large cane thicket. Looks like bamboo, but it's cane. It grows on riverbanks and creeks.
Yeah.
In Tennessee, and it's real thick. I mean, you can't hardly walk through it. It's so thick, and it grows 2 or 3 inches around. It's tall, and it's 12 to 15 foot tall, and the whole bank to the left of me is covered. I can't see all the way down the bank. It goes around a bend, but I can see that cane all the way down, and that's where these deer had come out of. And somewhere over in that area when they crossed the creek, and I looked up, and the doe, the mother, the bigger one, was staring right in that cane thicket, was not even moving, just froze solid. And I looked, the other 2 deer were the same way. They were just doing what she doing. They were staring right in it, and I thought, here comes a big buck. It's about to come out of this thicket right here, and this tall, thick cane, and she just kept staring, and I thought, she's really checking out something. And then she raised up her right front hoof and went 3 times on the ground with it, with her leg and her hoof, like she was trying to get something to move in there. And I've never seen a deer do that. But and she was just frozen, just looking straight in there, and her ears were just barely moving a few times. And she was really listening, and the other 2 younger deer behind her were doing the same thing. And then all of a sudden she raises her nose up real high, and she blows sound like someone sneezes, except it's a lot louder.
Yeah.
Real loud down that hollow, and sounded even louder in an echo in that hollow. But and then she's just standing there looking again, and then all of a sudden she turns and she runs right in front of me. I'm looking right over on her, running right down the game trail, right in front of me. She's running as fast as she can. The other 2 deer behind her. And I watch them run off to the right into the hardwoods until they run out of sight. And I'm thinking, wow, I've never seen a deer do that before, unless somebody had spooked it or shot at it or something. I'm thinking, well, this must be one huge deer in there, one big buck. And I'm looking over around the cane thicket, and I don't see anything or hear anything. Then all of a sudden, I start seeing the top of the cane moving. Something was coming through the middle of it. And it was pretty thick in there. I don't think a human could even walk through it, but I didn't think they could. And it was thick. You could hear it popping and snapping in there, but this cane was moving the tops of it, a big area of it. It was moving from the back to the front as something was walking to the front. Well, I'm all excited. This must be the biggest buck that I've ever heard of here, because this thing is coming through this cane thicket. It's huge. And, I'm waiting. I reached down and I had my gun laid between my legs against that little bar that the camo fell out of. And I pulled the trigger back and I heard it click. And I was ready for it to walk out and I was going to have a shot. And about that time, the cane quit moving and I couldn't see what was there because it was around a little bend. And then all of a sudden, I seen it. It stepped out. And I don't know what, I've never seen anything like that. I thought, what in the world is this thing? And I just kept looking at it. I said, is that a man? And I kept looking at it because it was kind of human-like from the side, but I couldn't see it that good at that time. And it takes one step, leaps the entire creek, lands on the other side, lands on the game trail. It walks slowly down the game trail, walks right down to where I'm looking at, stops right on the game trail, turns around and looks right at me. It knew exactly.
Oh, my word.
It knew exactly where I was at. And I knew then that's what I'd heard that morning. And this thing is so mad. It had the most evil, angry look. I've never seen anything to this day that was as mean and ugly as this thing was. And it had an expression on its face like it wanted to kill me. And it was looking at me and showing me its teeth. It just kept gritting them and showing them to me. And I'm only about 70 feet from this thing, and I can see it really good. And and it's just looking at me, and it's getting madder and madder. And I'm thinking the whole time, this thing's fixing to come across this creek, and it's going to pull me out of this tree.
That's what I would be thinking.
And at that point, I think, do I shoot this thing? If I hit it and it doesn't kill it, it's going to make it mad, and it's really coming after me. And I only got one shot because I'm not going to have time to reload. And I'm trying to make a decision on what to do. At the same time, I'm doing the best I can just to trying to breathe. I was just frozen.
I can understand that.
I couldn't even hardly breathe. This thing was really mad at me, and it was growling. Then when it got to growling,
oh man, it started growling too.
Oh, it was really growling, yeah. And then it all of a sudden stopped growling. It walks about 5 foot over. It reaches up and it grabs that drag rag I hung in that tree, and it's about the height of its head, and it just barely pulls it and sniffs of it, and then it just rips the whole tree limb out of the tree. It throws the tree limb on the ground. It's not a massive tree limb. It's probably 2 or 3 inches round at the base where it goes into the tree, but it still takes a lot of power to pull a tree limb out. And I know I couldn't do it, and I'm pretty strong. But then it walks right back to where it was at, and it looks at me, and it's showing me its teeth, and it's growling again. I thought, well, this is it. This thing's coming across the creek. And I was trying to make my mind up where to run, where to jump and run. Well, I really didn't know what to do. And
running is just making you pray, man.
And I remember, I had one of those old Iron Man watches on, and when I went into the woods, I'd push the button to see what time a deer came out, and that way I would kind of have an idea when to come. And that little alarm went off, and it kind of even shocked me more when that thing went off. And that creature's staring at me, and it's really mad. And then all of a sudden, it lets out this unbelievable scream, like yell, like a cross between a scream and a yell. And it went on for, it seemed like 5 minutes, but it was probably 15 or 20 seconds. But it was so loud, it echoed all down that hollow. And I thought, this is it. It's coming across here now for sure, because it's done screamed. Yeah. It's coming to get me. So I've got my hand on my gun. I'm going to get one shot on this thing before it comes and gets me. And then all of a sudden, for no reason at all, it just turns and it starts walking. And It turned and looked back at me one time with a real mean look on its face, and it just kept walking. And I watched it walk straight ahead into the hardwoods, and it was just about gone out of sight. And I wasn't going to take 15 or 20 minutes to climb down that tree stand. I lowered that barn. I jumped 28 foot out of the top of that tree stand. And I landed in the leaves, and I slid all the way down into the creek with my gun above my head. And water was about waist deep. And I jumped up, and I took off running the same way I'd come in there. And I was running as fast as I could. And
Wow.
those hills are so steep. I got about halfway up that first hill. I just couldn't go any further. I had to stop and take a breath because I just couldn't catch my breath. And time I got to the top of the first hill, going down was a little better, and I was running as fast as I could. Now, these hills are like 100 yards tall, and they're straight up almost. And, even in good shape, my younger days, it'd be hard to do those hills. And going down the other side of the hill, the second hill, I'm running as fast as I can, and I get down it, and I'm going up to the next hill, and I look back on the hill. I'm looking back the whole time to make sure this thing's not coming.
Yeah, sure.
And there it stood on top of the hill, next to a tree. It was watching me.
The one you just come down?
The one I just come down, and I realized, oh my God, it's fixing to run me down and catch me. So it just kicked in my adrenaline, and I went over that hill, and it went down I was going down the last hill, and there's that barbed wire fence I had to stop and climb over. Well, I wasn't stopping. I jumped it. And I jumped it, and when I did, it caught my pants at the bottom where my boot was.
Oh, no.
Ripped them all the way up past my knee, but I didn't slow down. I tore a huge gash in the side of my leg and with that barbed wire, and I just kept going and looking back, and I didn't see it, and I crossed that field, and my grandfather's there where the cattle were, and I got to the other side, opened the gate, went through it, and reached through and locked it back, and was looking for it, didn't see it, and ran into the back of his house there, old wooden farmhouse, and went through the door, reached out and locked the screen door with a little hook on it, and slammed the door and locked it and deadbolted it. And I was looking out the glass of it, and I didn't see it, and went into the right of my grandfather's kitchen there. That's what I'd run into. And I went into the living room where he was, and I went to the far corner of the living room. There was a big pot-bellied stove sitting there between the wall and the middle of the house, and
yeah,
it was burning wood in it. It was hot in there, and I just sat down in the corner over there. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even talk. I was so out of breath I couldn't even talk. And my granddad was just looking at me. He was sitting there to the left of me in his rocking chair, and he goes, "Boy, what's wrong with you?" My granddad we were super close. I mean, really close. I was practically his son, basically. I knew him so well, but he always called me boy. He never called me by my name. And he said, "Boy, what's wrong with you?" And I couldn't talk. You couldn't breathe. I was still trying to get my breath. And he said, "You look like you've seen a ghost." And I remember I got up from there after I got my breath. I went into the kitchen. I got me a glass of water and started drinking it. And I came in and I sat down on the couch right next to him. And I was getting my breath a little better. And he goes, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "I seen a monster in the woods." He said, "A monster?" He said, "There ain't no monsters in these woods." And I said, "Yeah, there are monsters in these woods. I just seen one." He said, "What did it look like?" And I told him. He goes, "Oh, you seen a wood booger." I said, "I've lived here. You've lived here all these years, and I've known you. You're my granddad, lived with you in this house all these years, and you never mentioned a wood booger to me." And he said, "Didn't want you to know about them. You'd be afraid of them. Everybody is." He said,
"Yes, I am."
You wouldn't have hunted, you wouldn't have fished, and you wouldn't have camped out in the woods, and you wouldn't have camped out in the barn and do all the stuff you've done growing up. And he says, "Yeah, they around here. I've seen 4 of them in my lifetime real well. I'll be working in the field, want to be standing right there on the fence post just watching me work." And he said, "Them sounds you used to ask me about when we're sitting on the front porch at night?" We used to sit on, my granddad always sat on the front porch at night, and I'd hear these crazy noises in the woods, long yells, and sound like somebody yelling and screaming. And I used to say, "Granddad, what is all that noise?" He said, "Oh, it's one of them old catamites." And I said, "What's a catamite?" He goes, "It don't matter about them." And the catamite was the Bigfoot. So, but it's a wood booger, he called it. And He said in the wintertime, he says, they don't bother you. You probably interrupted his hunt. I should have thought about it. You going in there that far, he hadn't seen people in years, and you probably went in there and messed up his hunt with that deer you were on. And he said in the wintertime, they get hungry. They come here to the house, and I'll hear them. And they'll go to the chicken coop, and he had a huge chicken coop made out of actual logs that he had cut trees down with. And there's probably 100 chickens in there, and because he sold eggs, that's what he did, and chickens. And he said they'll take 3 or 4 chickens when they're hungry, and they'll leave me a little pile of rocks and sticks right outside the door like they're paying for it. And I said, well, I don't know why you never told me about them. I said, I'll tell you one thing. They're definitely a monster. And he says, yeah, they're a wood booger, and they'll chase you down sometimes, but as long as you're in their territory, they're very territorial. And that was my first experience. I had nightmares for months. And,
I bet you did. Good heavens. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, one of my buddies came in a little bit later. I stayed there with my granddad. They all came in on 4-wheelers and heard them pull up. And one of them had got a deer, and he had it hung in a tree out there. They were skinning it out. And I walked out there, nervous wreck still, and started talking to him. And they said, you do any good, Big D? Everybody calls me Big D. You do any good, Big D? No, I didn't do any good. And you see anything? I said, yeah, I seen something in the woods, but don't really know what it was. Some kind of creature. A creature. And I kind of told them a little bit what I thought I'd seen. They just said, you had too much to drink last night. We ain't never seen no creatures up here. And I let it go at that and never said anything else about it. And we hunted up there 2 or 3 more years. Every year I'd stay at the house with my granddad, and they went hunting. I didn't hunt. But changed my life forever. It was pretty terrifying. It took me a long time to get over that. And, of course, back in that day, there weren't any social media. There weren't any groups. Right. There weren't any radio shows. You know, I was telling Dave Scott, I was on his show the other night. Dave and I are really close. I've done his show a lot of times. And I don't know, I've probably done 400 or 500 shows over the years. And there wasn't none of this around in those days. And I sure could have used it back then because there wasn't anybody to talk to. There wasn't, I mean, you had nowhere to go. That's why so many people had PTSD. And, you know, my best friend, Martin Groves, he had PTSD. So I didn't have anybody to tell. I mean, here I was. I just got elected as a city alderman or a commissioner, my first little job I ever got. And,
oh, my.
And I couldn't go back and tell people, hey, I seen a Bigfoot or whatever it was. And so I went to the libraries and I started digging around. I was trying to find some kind of evidence of what this thing was I seen. And that's about the only place to go. And I found a book. I found several books, but the one book that I found that got my attention, it was a big book and it was colorful. Some of the pictures were real, some of them were drawn, and it had the top 10 species of Bigfoot. And I don't think anybody knows how many species there are, but there was a guidance to go by at that time anyway. And it had pictures of all these Bigfoot in there, different looking ones. And
were they drawings or photos?
Both. Yeah.
Really?
Some of them were drawings, some of them were photos. And the second one, wood booger. And I'll never forget it. The number 2 was called the wood booger. And as soon as I seen that, it was identical to what I'd seen. It was identical. Wow. Only difference was that picture had red eyes. The one I seen didn't have red eyes. It had dark eyes or black eyes. But it looked just like it. The one I seen had one side of its mouth was kind of deformed, or he had some type of accident. It was kind of miscontortioned on one side. But that was the book that I looked at, and that's where I first realized that I seen a wood booger. My granddad was right. That was it. And I don't know who the book was by, but that was my first reference to what I'd seen. And I didn't go in the woods for 7 years.
Really? Well, you know, I'm not going to lie. I would totally understand that. How old were you?
I can't remember how old I was that time. I was young 20s probably, but I know that my I never have been scared of anything, and I don't know if that's good or bad, but I really haven't, and I mean I just don't get scared easy. But that thing there done something to me that nothing had ever done, and it lived with me for a good while too, because. What little bit of deer hunting I did, I'd done out of my truck in my grandfather's field there, or my other grandfather had a farm also, and then we had land back home where I lived too, and to deer hunt. But I didn't go in the woods, and I refused to go in the woods. So took a long time to get over that, and it was I never did get over it, and I never would have gotten over it if I hadn't had my second encounter. That's really what changed me. Completely changed me, and if I hadn't had that, I don't think I'd be the same person today, because it was only about I had that in November of '92. Martin had his dogman encounter, Martin Groves I'm talking about, in the Lamprey Lakes in April of '93. So Martin was my best friend then. He was chief deputy officer in my district, and we'd go to lunch together. I was a commissioner at that time before I became a mayor, and we stayed together quite a bit at lunch. And it was pretty remarkable that as close as he and I were, he had an encounter after I did, and he was the only person I could talk to. I mean, if you wouldn't tell people you've seen a Bigfoot or one of these creatures, you weren't ever getting reelected again. They probably think you were crazy. And him being a sheriff's department, he couldn't tell nobody he's seen that thing. But him and Harry went through a lot more than I did. They were really traumatized. Martin had PTSD for years. He didn't tell his story until 2022. 2022 is the first time he ever told his story at the Paris Landing First Annual Dogman Conference, and I went with him for him to tell it. And it was pretty, he brought the house down. He did. There was a huge crowd there anyway, and it was an incredible, honest, true story. And he's a different person after that. He took the weight of the world off of his shoulders. And even though he told me bits and pieces of it for years, and I watched him go through a lot over it, I went through the same thing. And maybe not quite as bad as he did, because Harry, his partner, never recovered. His partner had a stroke after that happened, and he never went back to work.
Oh my gosh! He saw it on duty.
He didn't. He didn't come back to work when they were officers at the county, and
but were they on duty when they saw it?
No, they were turkey hunting when they saw it. They were on. They took 4 days off to go to the LBL to go turkey hunting, but they had to go back to work. And Martin went back to work, but Harry didn't come back to work, and he was sick. And a few days after that, he was supposed to be back. He had a stroke, and he was a younger man. He wasn't old, and he never came back. Never came back.
Oh my gosh!
So, it done a lot to those guys. And I knew Martin well, and I could read it on his face. He had the weight of his shoulders on him. It was terrifying. He had 2 dogman creatures that tried to kill him and Harry. And then 2 Bigfoot tried to keep him from leaving. So
they were working as tag teams?
Correct. There was 2 or 3 dogmen, and there were 2 Bigfoot with these creatures. They were trying to get out of their campsite in the truck, and 2 Bigfoot were blocking them in the field. They had to cross to go out and get to the highway.
But they were working as teams.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure
that's crazy.
They could have possibly been Gugway. I mean, I'm not sure they were Bigfoot, and Martin don't know for sure, but he knew they were Bigfoot-looking creatures.
Right.
Which a Gugway looks like a Bigfoot, except they have a little snout and pointed ears and double row of teeth, and they're more known to be aggressive like that, and they are in the LBL. And
okay, what is the LBL? Because people are hearing this, and
the LBL is the land between the lakes of Tennessee and Kentucky. It's 180,000 acres of pure natural land with campgrounds scattered out in a few areas. There used to be a lot more campgrounds, but they shut them down. And we have a reason to what we believe they shut them down for, but they say it's different reasons. But been a lot of things that's happened over the years in the LBL. It's a pretty strange place. I've been to a lot of places over the years, and no places like the LBL. When the lights go out there, it's like it's a different world. You better know what you're doing when you're there at night. And there's a lot of evil there, and some people will go there for years and see nothing. Then some people will go there and they won't ever go back. So there, over the years, there's been missing people. There was a family killed there in '82. The LBL massacre. Dogman creature attacked the family and killed 4 of them. And
oh my gosh,
it's just a well-known area that a lot of people down in your area go there pretty regular too. Yeah. I've got friends that down in your area, and
I just didn't know what it stood for.
Yeah, Land Between the Lakes. It's not run by the National Park Service. It's run by the National Forestry Service. It's mainly a place to fish and hunt, but they do have some campgrounds scattered out through it. A lot of cemeteries because it was it was people's land at one time. It was the land between the rivers. Between 2 rivers, and when they combined the Cumberland River of Tennessee and the Tennessee River together, they formed Kentucky Lake with a dam to bring power to that area. And a lot of the people didn't want to leave, so they took their land and flooded their land while they were sitting on it. So there's a lot of dark and bloody feeling from that area too over people's land that were taken from them. So
well, that happened in our area too.
It happened a lot of.
Although they don't talk about that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's really crazy because you wouldn't think that your government could do that. Your government can do whatever they want to.
They do whatever's best for them. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Well, you've been government, so.
Yeah, it's. I'm glad that I'm not in it anymore. I've had my fill of it, but I enjoyed the time I did spend there. So. I wouldn't want to do it anymore, though. Those days have gone by me. Been plenty of night when I pulled over on the side of the road coming home from a county or a city meeting and just cried for about 10 minutes. So it's a tough business, you want to please everybody, but you can't, and that's difficult for me because I'm one of those kind of people that don't like to hurt anybody and like to be treated the same as I'd want to be treated. So
exactly.
It's a difficult position to be in when you get put up in front of one of those, but you got to do what's best for, the job you work for. So I chose not to do it any longer. So anyway, that's what it is. But that was my first encounter, and it was life-changing. It definitely changed my life.
Well, it interests me because if that were my first encounter, I would have done everything I could for it to be my last encounter. And I have seen scat and stuff, but I've never had a personal encounter. And it was great big scat. I mean, it is what it is. But hi, Melinda. But it's really one of those things that I can't believe that you still seek this. I mean, to me, that's fascinating.
It's pretty much like I said a minute ago. My grandmother told me a long time ago that I had a special gift, and my grandmother on my dad's side was Lakota Sioux Indian, and she was very spiritual, and I learned a lot from her with the spirit world, and that wasn't the grandparents that I lived with. That was on my dad's side. My mom's parents is who I lived with. And, but I do believe that has something to do with me being where I'm at today, and I do know that I have a special way with these creatures, and I've developed that over the years, and I can feel them when they're around, and I can be driving down the road, and I'll go through an area, and I'll just slow down. I feel them. They've been right in here. I know that sounds crazy, but I really can. And
I don't think it sounds crazy. I think it's the physical side of a gift.
Well, like I said,
recognizing it.
Maybe so. And, Martin has the same thing. Martin Groves has the same thing with Dogman. He feels them. And they kind of like, I truly believe these things mark you somehow. And I don't know how they do it, but they do. And I think they have the ability to let you know they're there. They have the ability to allow you to know they're there. And they all also have the ability to follow you home when they want to. So I think that that's just part of their nature. And the first thing you don't ever want to do with them that I've learned over the years, and I've sat in areas where they were screaming, yelling, and hollering. And if it had been me in '92, I would have got up and ran. But now I just sat there and let it go. I deal with it. It doesn't frighten me like it did. And if they play on your fear. So
yes.
If you let them know you're scared and you show fear, they're going to make it worse on you. And they will do that. They enjoy doing that for some reason. Now, my second encounter changed me completely. I would, like I said, I never wanted to be doing what I'm doing now, and I wouldn't have been. My second encounter was 7 years later on the Cumberland River.
Oh wow, that long?
Yeah, it was 7 years later. I've never been back to the spot where that happened to me at in '92. I guess my stand's still there. I don't know, but
can always buy another one.
Never been back there, I don't know. My granddad's passed away now. That land's all sold, so somebody could have went in there and got it or whatever. But who knows what happened to it? But my second encounter was in 1999, and I wasn't hunting. I wasn't going in the woods. I was in the woods, but I was going to a place that I'd fished at for quite a few years. Two of my buddies, Dwayne and Donnie, took me to this spot. It's right down past an old water treatment like plant or sewage plant or something. And he had some family member or cousin or somebody that worked there. And back in that day, you'd drive through a gate in the front, and you would drive around the back of the building and park in a fenced-in area. And it was remote out in the country between Nashville and Cheatham County. And it's pretty remote out there, and I'd fish there a bunch of times. You park your car or your truck there, and you go through this gate, and you walk down this game trail back behind this plant on the Cumberland River, on the banks of it. And you walk back there about 200 yards. It's just a game trail you're walking on. You can see deer tracks and everything in it. And walk all the way back, and there's a spot there that has a creek coming out, and it runs into the river, and then there's a big sandbar on the side of that creek that goes out in the river. You can walk out on the sandbar to about the middle of the river and reel your fish in when you catch them. But it was a great place to fish. I'd never seen anybody fishing back there except us, me and those two guys. And I brought my dad back there one time before, and but I was fishing. It was February or March of '99, and I wanted to go fishing at a good spot. And I knew for years ago that we caught a lot of what we call crappie there.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a real good spot in the river. The water's pretty clear right there, and it's pretty clean, and it's pretty good, pretty deep, 15, 20 foot deep. And I got my gear, and I went back there to go fishing that day. And I carried a big bucket of styrofoam bucket of minnows and 4 or 5 dozen of them, and went down, and I carried a 5-gallon bucket that I sat on, and I carried my gear in it, and leaned against the tree and sat on the bucket, and I got all my poles out in front of me. And when you catch a fish, you walk down on that sandbar to reel it in, because if you don't, you reel it on the bank, you'll catch it in all the tree limbs and the roots hanging out of the side of the bank. And I caught a couple of fish, and I came back up to sit down on my bucket and reached over to get my minnow bucket. My minnow bucket was gone. And I've never seen anybody back there. It's real remote, rural. I've seen animals back there, but not people. And just me and my 2 buddies. It's been quite a while since they've been back there. And I looked around for my bucket, couldn't find it anywhere, couldn't figure out what happened to my minnow bucket. That's strange. You just don't take off by itself, and it's kind of a cool time of year. It's February or March. It was in the mid 30s that day. And
oh, wow.
I couldn't find it. And right to the left of me there, where I was sitting, there was a huge patch of kudzu, these real thick vines, just massive bunch of vines. And that game trail went right through them. They're real thick, couldn't see through them. But you had to get on your knees almost to go through there on the game trail. I'd never been back in there before, as far as we'd always go fish right there. And I didn't know what happened, so I got my gear up, picked up. I had no bait. I went on back to my truck and I left. And next weekend I came back and brought another minnow bucket with minnows in it. And it'd been raining a little bit this day. It was a little wind blowing, and I started fishing and caught a couple of fish. I was having a pretty good morning and went up and sat down on my bucket, reached over to get a minnow. My minnow bucket was gone again. So I'm starting to think, well, somebody's playing some kind of joke here, because you don't lose 2 minnow buckets 2 weeks in a row, especially a styrofoam minnow bucket that floats in the river. It won't sink.
You'd still see it going.
Looked around everywhere for it. I couldn't find it. I started yelling in the woods. I know you're in here, whoever you are. I thought it was a kid's what I thought it was.
Right.
Some kid was in there playing a joke or something. And anyway, got all my gear together again and hit it out. And it was the best time of the season was in that time frame, 2 or 3 months time frame for catching those type fish. And went on back to my truck, and I didn't get to come the next week, but it was the week after, and I came back, brought all my gear. But this time, it was a sunny day, beautiful day. It warmed up a little bit. It was probably in the low 40s. Real muddy because it had been raining. You could see mud and all kinds of tracks in the game trail. Looked like dog tracks, all kinds of tracks on the game trail. And I brought but this time, my minnow bucket, styrofoam minnow bucket, had a metal handle. I tied a little rope around it, and I tied it around the tree next to my bucket, and it was about 10 foot, the rope was. A little small, thin rope. That way, if something grabbed my bucket, it was going to take time enough for me to see what it was. And I brought my 14 shotgun with me, a little single shot shotgun, and leaned it against the tree. And I caught 3 or 4 fish, and I went down, and I put them on a stringer, and I was doing pretty good. And I come back up to sit down, and I looked over. My minnow bucket is over on the game trail up in that kazoo where it's real low, stretched real tight with the rope. It's from the tree to there, and it's stretched. And I could see the bucket sitting there, and I couldn't see anybody around it. So I got on my knees, and I crawled up in the kazoo in the game trail. And up in there, you could stand up a little bit because it kind of opened up. And up to the left of me in the kazoo, maybe 10 foot, there was a minnow bucket laying there. Up to the right, just about 4 or 5 foot, there was a minnow bucket laying there. I figured, well, there's my 2 minnow buckets from the week before. And I looked down at this minnow bucket. I was fixing to pick it up, and I was looking around. I didn't see anybody in there, and that kazoo is so thick I couldn't see up inside of it. But I didn't hear anything. I didn't see anything, but I reached down to get my minnow bucket, and the top is off. It's on the rope. It's leaning down, and half the water is spilt out. And I had 4 or 5 dozen of minnows in there, and there was only 1 minnow. And I looked down in it, and I said, I just thought. And then when I looked down to where the bucket was, it was real muddy there where the water had spilled. It was already muddy anyway. And there was a footprint. And the footprint was not a massive print. It looked like maybe, 10 or 11-inch track. It wasn't huge. It wasn't little, but it wasn't huge. And I thought, okay, some kid's in here taking my minnow bucket. He didn't realize it was tied to the tree, so he tried to run with it and spilt my minnows and my water out of it. So I take my bucket and the other 2 buckets, go sit back down next to the tree, and I just act like I'm fishing. Even though I'm not fishing, I'm looking out of my left eye, out of my peripheral vision, trying to see what this person is doing in here. And I'm going to catch him. I've got my 14 shotgun, and I'm not going to shoot him, but I'm going to make him think I am. And I waited for, hour and a half, and I thought, well, whatever it was is gone. I was just about to give up, but I had no way to fish. I only had 1 minnow. And I just sitting there, and it's getting a little closer to dark, and all of a sudden, I see this creature bend the head down like that. It's holding onto a tree, a little tree up there in that kazoo. I can see the tree moving, the top of it. It's looking at me. Then it went back in real quick when it seen me look at it, and I went, "Oh no, I'm not going to be around these things again. I don't want
Time to go.
anything to do with these creatures again." Now this one didn't look anything like the one that I'd seen before. It looked more like what I call the number 3, number 4 types. Looked more like the Patterson-Gimlin type.
Mm.
It looked nothing like the wood booger, but still, I didn't want anything to do with these creatures. I thought it was some kid selling my minute bucket. This thing, I'm sitting there looking. I just sitting there, and it comes back out and peeks again. And I went, peeked at it. And I said, time for me to go. I got all my gear, my shotgun, and I hit it out as fast as I could get to my truck. And I said, I do not want anything to do with these creatures, because there's a little one, there's a big one. And
yep.
I am not getting back into this again. And got everything loaded up, and I flew out of there. All the way home, I thought about that creature. All the next week, I thought about that creature every day. Couldn't take it. I went back the next week. Brought all my gear, set it all up. I didn't have any minnows. I just act like I was fishing. And I sat there on my bucket next to the tree with my shotgun on the other side of me, laying on the ground. And sat there a while, and there it was, looking at me again. Same one it looked like, and it just kept staring at me, and I kept staring at it, and I was looking around. I was just waiting for the bigger one to come out and attack me is what I kept thinking. And I kept looking around for it, and I could hear something moving in that stuff, but I couldn't see what it was. And and then just a few minutes later, it's probably a couple of hours that went by before this one came out, the first one. And it was a female. She was about 5 foot tall. And behind it, another one came out that was about the same size as that one, and it was behind the female. And they were just sitting there looking at me like they wasn't even scared of me. And I'm thinking, are these things going to attack me? Or is the mother coming around the backside of me, or the father? I had all kinds of thoughts in my mind. And
I have a question at this point.
Yeah, go ahead.
You brought your gear with you this time. Did you have more than a single shotgun?
No. I did. I didn't bring it. All I brought was a 410 single shot shotgun. Yeah.
What I wasn't planning on violent. There's more than one.
I wasn't planning on killing them. I figured if I fired a shot, this was my thought. I don't know if it would have worked. If I would have fired the shot, they would have probably ran, and it would have given me time to get back to my truck, and I'd be out of there. So that was my intention, was not to go in there and shoot them, but more frighten them than anything else. And but anyway, I had a female looking at me, and I could see her pretty good. She was out there where I could see her, and she was crouched down, but I could still see her good. And the one behind her looked just like her, but it was looking over her shoulder a little bit, and it would look around at me. And I watched these for, I don't know, probably a couple, 2.5 hours, and I would kind of make gestures at them, and they'd just look at me, and I didn't really know what to do. I just couldn't believe it. I'd run into these things again, but I started feeling comfortable with them, and I didn't hear any other ones, and I did make some verbal sounds of, are you by your, just ask them, I don't remember what questions I asked them, but
yeah, but just trying to communicate.
Yeah, just trying to, I didn't feel, I knew that there was bigger ones, because there always are. There's always a family. They're always together, just like the one that I seen on the ridge when I was running that time after I had my encounter. That wasn't the same creature. That was a different one, probably kin to that one. So, and it could have killed me if it wanted to, but it didn't. It just wanted to scare me to death. So,
well, it did a good job.
It did a great job. Yeah. Yeah. But these, these creatures were not real big. 5.5 foot tall, and they just sat and looked at me, and I didn't feel frightened or anything by them. And I told them I'm going to go. I'll see you later. And I got up and walked off. They just sat there and watched me as I walked and got all my stuff, and I walked on back to my truck. And I was only about probably 30 minutes from where I worked at. There wasn't very far by the interstate road and the side road, and I started going back to visiting them. And
Did you?
I went there every day or every other day for almost 5 years. And I became very close to them. They would become my friends. And there was a bigger one behind those two. And he was about 7 foot tall. He started watching them, and he would come out, and he had a very friendly look on his face, and he just watched over them. And I asked all kinds of questions. I did everything I could to communicate with them. They have their own language. They knew my intentions before I'd done something. They already knew I was going to do it, and they're just super intelligent, more intelligent than some people I know, and
Right.
they have ability to pick up your heart, and if you have a good heart or a bad heart. And they brought me gifts. I brought them gifts. I started taking them. I never even heard of gifting back in that time, but I started bringing them things, and I would bring them some type of food about once a week, and I probably brought them about every type of food you could think of over that 4.5 years, and found out their favorite food was cantaloupe, by far their favorite. Their second favorite food, which we all like, was cooked bacon. And their third favorite food was any kind of bread product, especially jelly-filled donuts. They would eat all of them I could give them. So, and they didn't want them thrown on the ground. They wanted them put on a little plate and push them over next to the kazoo, and they come out and get them. So
That's a riot.
They're kind of a clean. They don't want their food thrown on the ground any more than we do. And they brought me gifts. I came in one day to bring them something, and I sat down on my bucket, and there laid 3 catfish still flopping. They brought me 3 fish, and they made me a old cardboard half-gallon milk carton. They stuck sticks through it that made little X's out each side, and it had vines around it. It was cool looking. I still have it, and their marker of their family of what they're called is an X. They have large X's. They had huge X's right there in the woods with new trees broken at the bottom that formed X's, and then they had them laying on the trail too, the X. That was their family marker, and I learned a lot of things from them, and I camped out with them, spent the night with them. I stayed in my spot. They stayed in the kazoo, and I could hear other ones in there. But I only seen.
How many do you think there were?
At least 7. At least 7. Maybe 8. But I know, I seen the 3 regularly, and and I heard some other ones across the river too. And I don't know if they were the same family or they were a different family. But I camped out in there one night, and they'd look over the kazoo to look at me when I was asleep, when I was trying to sleep, and it was pretty cool. But I became really close to them, and I tried to communicate with them as best as I could, and I asked them lots of questions, and sometimes they would nod, and sometimes they would jabber whatever language they speak. They have their own language. They do understand English. They can speak English, and they understand other languages. They understand American Native language, which I gave them some words from, which I address them as the Chayutanka, which is the Lakota Sioux relate to the hairy man of the woods is the great keeper and the elder of the forest, and that's what Chayutanka means. And they knew what that meant. I asked them where they came from. Where did you come from? And I'm drawing the dirt right there next between me and them. And are you from another galaxy? I got that head now. I got 2 of them. And
really?
Did you come from another galaxy? Okay, that means you come from there, up there, way up there. Okay, all right. So I got, when I used to leave, they learned, they picked up and mocked my language. Every time I would leave, I would say, bye, see you later. I'll see you tomorrow. If I'm not here tomorrow, I'll be here the next day. Bye, I'll see you later. And I'll be walking off, and I'd hear bye, 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 like from different areas. And they were all saying bye to me. It was cool. So
That is so cool.
I brought them a little pack of. I brought them so many gifts. I brought them toys, marbles, balls, everything you can think of. They love the light sticks, the little things you pop and break. They love
Oh
those.
yeah, I could see that. I love
And
those too.
I brought them. The coolest thing I ever brought them was I went to the dime store and where you buy like kids' birthday things you give out at parties. The little blow things and all that. And I brought them a little bag of plastic whistles, and they had a little black string on them. And I hung them on all the limbs the day before I left. I said, I'm going back to work. I'll see you tomorrow or the next day. Bye. And I'll say, bye. I'm walking out back to the trail and going back to
I
my
love
truck.
this.
Going back to my truck. And every time I come in, I'd say, hey, I'm here. I'm coming in to see you. I'd let them know. And they'd start yelling and screaming. And I hear them whooping and everything else. I got excited. So the next day, or I went back, and right as I went through the gate, I'd start saying, hey, I'm here, I'm coming in. I'd let them know it was me. And then what did I hear? I heard whistles everywhere. They were whistling straight ahead, off to the left, off to the right, one across the river. And these things are intelligent. I mean, nobody taught them how to blow a whistle.
Yeah.
I
That's
remember.
pretty amazing.
But I learned a whole lot from them, and they really became my friends. I was very close to them. And the coolest thing that ever happened, can't think of anything any better that could ever happen to me. The female that I was so close to, I was leaning over to give her a plate with her jelly-filled donut, and I was in the box getting it out, and I said, please tell me your name. My name is Darrell. You know, my name, Darrell. And I hear Aleatha. The female's name was Aleatha. Only two words I ever got out of these creatures was that and bye. And some other stuff
That's so
say.
cool.
They would kind of mock me, sometimes the things I would say. When I would say, where's my fish? They got tickled about that for some reason when they'd bring me fish. And the bigger one behind, Tobias, that was it. No more English words from him. And I was shocked, absolutely shocked. I said, you can speak English. You can actually speak English. They trusted me. It took me all those years to build up that trust with them to get those two words out, but they would never give me any more words. So I never did understand that quite, but because for me to build that much trust with them and for them to trust me as much as they did, don't really understand why they didn't use more of my language that I understood. But anyway, I was in there one morning, and Aleatha stuck her finger out, and she's probably sitting about 10 or 12 feet from me, right in the kazoo, right on the trail, on the outside of it, though, where I can see her whole body.
Right.
And she reaches over real far and sticks her finger out. And she wants me to, and I touch my finger to hers. And it was the coolest thing in the world, because to her to have that much trust in me, for me to touch fingers with her, was cool.
Yeah.
And then
and for her to want that connection.
She reached over and touched the toe of my shoe, and it was a great time in my life. It really was. If I had met them, they were never aggressive. They knew that I was a good person, and I knew that they had good intentions, and it worked out very well for us. And they were my friends for a long time. And that pretty much. I had two more families after that. One in Ashton City, Tennessee, that was bothering the family looking in their windows that I met, but never one like that one. Those were the real forest people. That's what I call them. The forest people are the ones that make the X's. And they're a real gentle type being. Nothing like the first one that I run into. And they had very good instincts of understanding and knowing the true person in me and allowing me to know them the same way.
You know, that's such a gift. I mean, I don't care what creature it is. I'm a dog whisperer. So it's kind of one of those things that it's just an absolute gift from the universe, from creator, from God, from whatever you want to look at.
100%. I agree. 100%.
You know,
very well put. It's amazing that the abilities that those creatures have, and they're not. I'm 100% believer now. There's, of course, I'm very close to. I'm a very good friend of Dr. Melba Ketchum, and Robin Haynes is one of my closest friends too, and I have no doubt that these creatures are. The DNA showed that they were 58% human female and the other part unknown. And you take 100 pieces of DNA, over 100 pieces, you can't mess up enough to come back with those facts and then to be wrong.
Right.
So, I know they're not an ape. They're a type of human. They're part human. They're a human hybrid is what they are. And
yeah,
I 100% believe that. But to find some that were like that is very difficult. I don't know that I'd ever find another family like that. They were realistically true friends to me, and I know they felt the same way about me. And I brought a friend in there one time with me, and I never brought anybody in there with me. And they allowed me to do it. I told them 3 or 4 times, I'm bringing my friend in, one like me. I kept telling him, try to explain what I wanted to do because he wanted to come in, and he knew that I was honest about him, and he just never sunk into him about these creatures being what they were. And and he was my buddy.
It's hard to grasp.
You knew my buddy. I played ball with this guy, and he's one excellent, great ball player, and we played ball together forever. And one of the toughest guys around, and he actually could have played at Alabama in football. He could have if he wanted to. He went somewhere else, but he kept telling me, Big D, to me, go in there with you one time. I said, all right, when you want to go? He's the only person I ever gave that opportunity to. He went in there with me one day. We pulled up, and he walked down the trail with me. I yelled at him, I'm coming in. I got my friend with me, and I went and sat on my bucket there next to the tree, and he sat right behind me looking over my shoulder, and they didn't come out. I was waiting and waiting. They didn't come out. I thought, well, maybe they're not going to come out because he's here. And finally they came out. One of them came out, the female, Alyssa. And she came out, and she was just looking at him and trying to figure him out if he was really okay. And it was just the look she had. I can't explain it, and the other two didn't come out. And when he seen her, my buddy, I thought he was going to have a heart attack. He grabbed me by the shoulder and squeezed my shoulder so hard. He goes, oh, my God, what are these things? Man, I'm getting out of here. And he jumped up and ran down the trail as fast as he could back to the truck, locked the truck door, started blowing the horn.
He should not have been scared.
They weirded him out somehow. And,
well, I could see that because.
But it really did scare her. It scared the female because she couldn't figure out what she'd done wrong, and she was looking at me like, what did I do? And it was an awkward situation, but he never would go back in there with me again. So
he just thought he wanted to see him.
Well, he just couldn't believe that they were really there. I mean, he knew that I was. He listened to me, but until you see him, it's kind of hard to let it sink in.
Well, that's understandable though, because we are so geared by society to pay no attention to that. it's kind of like, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain kind of stuff, because it's it's a history thing, right?
Right.
Because we didn't treat natives well, we didn't treat animals well.
Still
either.
don't treat them well.
No, we do not. And I mean, I got rescues here that will prove that. But we've got, and then you've got something that's not supposed to exist.
Yeah.
And then, boo, here we are. I think that's your story just absolutely fascinates me, because I know people who are who do what you do but don't have those relationships, because, like I said,
that was a
north,
super rare opportunity in my lifetime.
Absolutely.
If I could find another relationship like that, I'd be out there tomorrow morning, because it's just so rare for that to happen. And I do believe, I know 100% that it changed my whole belief in these creatures, and I was no longer, I had a fear toward them like I did. And if it hadn't been for them, I would have felt like I did the rest of my life, probably, with after seeing the first one. But, we're not all alike. And like I said on the first of the show, there's bad and good in everything. And I think that there's a whole lot more good ones of these creatures, and there is a lot of different types. I don't know how many, but I'm no expert on anything. I can only tell you what I've experienced and encountered. But I can tell you that these creatures weren't the type to harm you unless you tried to harm their family. And I don't even know that they were. I never seen the big elder. I could hear him.
Right.
I heard him several times. He would a loud black noise, and I could just tell he was the one that was making the decisions on them let them be seen by me. And he had the larger one watching over him to make sure nothing happened to him. And but it was a great experience, really was. It was a great experience.
Well, how did you go from being just a guy in the woods talking to friends, right, to being the guy that does all the things you do now?
Well, I don't know. It's just, my team that I've had for a long time, I brought up Martin and Ryan and Mike now. Martin Nunley was one of our teammates for a long time, but he's off doing other things now. And, being with those guys and being in an area that's completely different than that, when I've been into the Blue Ridge Mountains. I've been into the areas of West Virginia. I've been into some pretty crazy areas where some creatures are in there that probably wouldn't want you to come home alive. And when you get around a team that you learn and build trust around, and they got your back, and it's not like taking somebody you just met in there. These guys I've been with for a while, and I know if something comes up, and they know before I have to say it, they're already thinking it. And it's just a bond that we've kind of grown together. And Martin he's been mainly interested in the dog man for a long time, ever since they tried to kill him. And he's interested in Bigfoot too, but at the same time, his goal is, and our goal with the LBL is, in all the national parks, is we want people to know these creatures exist. We don't want campers to go in there and not know these creatures are there, and something happened to them or they disappear. And we don't think it's very good for the National Park Association or the National Forestry Service not to tell people that these creatures might be in the park. And
I agree with that, because when I've hiked around Cherokee, I've come across places that it was obvious somebody had just left.
Well, I mean, these things are dangerous, and there are people dangerous. There's people missing too. I mean, and not just in that area, other parks too. If you look it up, Glacier National Park. I'm sorry, not Glacier. It's I think Yosemite National Park.
Yes.
Has more people missing in that park than any place in the entire world.
Yeah.
Not the U.S., the world. There's more people missing in that park than any place in the world. Now, how do we not know that? Why is there not a sign up that says, hey, there's 72 people missing from here, and they haven't been found. It's a possibility it might have been an animal attack. They fell off a cliff. They fell into a crevice. Something could have happened to them, but they're missing. We don't have anything like that. And then they found bodies. Found the bow hunter in the LBL a few years back with his arm torn off and something had fed upon him. And, do we have signs that say anything like that? No, we don't have no sign like that. And they let this young family come in and set a tent up at 10 o'clock at night and camp in the woods there with two little kids in the tent. Nobody knows anything about what could be around that area. So, that's our main goal that we've come to do this for, is to try to educate people and to let them know that, whatever you do, if you're going to go into these areas, go to an area that's a lot safer if you're going to camp.
Especially if you have children with you.
Exactly, and be aware of what's in there. And the biggest problem you run into with some of these areas, these national parks, they won't allow you to carry a weapon inside the park.
Nope.
So you're in a national park and something attacks you, you're out of luck. Or either that or carry your gun and take a chance of getting in trouble. I mean, there's your two options.
I'd rather get in trouble.
You want to protect your family, or do you want to follow the rules? I don't. I just think that there ought to be. I'm a true advocate for us allowing people to know possibilities. Not saying, okay, there's a dog man on this trail. Just the possibility that there could be a creature in this area. There has been sightings or some kind of something to allow these people to know.
Well, they don't have to use a metaphysical name, right?
No,
they
can just
they can just say there's dangerous wildlife, or
I've camped and I've researched and I camped. It's been 15 years ago in Pikes Peak National Park in Colorado, and they've got signs all over it that say there are Bigfoot in this area.
I didn't know that.
Oh, metal signs. There are Bigfoots in this area. Be careful. Now, this is a National Park Service. Yeah. I've got pictures of them. And there's some other parks that've got those type signs too. Some out in California have got them too. But, I guess I don't know. I think that all the parks should have some type of discretion on what could be in the park. I'm not saying it is. At least you have you could observe the caution and knowing that it might be a possibility instead of someone getting killed or disappearing.
Well, you need a fighting chance. You need to be making good decisions based on the information that you're given.
Well, the national parks will never, ever admit that Bigfoot exists, and they'll never do it. And I can tell you why, because it's a $2.8 billion. That's with a B, billion-dollar industry every year. $2.8 billion a year in tourist dollars coming in and out of all these national parks, and that's not including the Forestry Services area. This is just the national parks. They're not going to go put a sign up if they can help it and tell people that something could be happening and tap into a minus on that revenue. So, unfortunately, the dollar speaks in everything we do.
It does. But, it's really interesting to me because all of a sudden, now we go to Cherokee. My husband's a poker player. We go to Cherokee. We go to Biloxi. We go to Vegas.
I've been to Cherokee a few times. There's some crazy stuff in Cherokee, too.
There is. And what I find funny is that in the last year, and you've probably noticed this, too, because it's more relevant to what you do, but it's like all these Appalachian lore is coming out, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, don't leave make sure you dry your curtains and all this other stuff. And it's a feed on Facebook. Yeah. And, people are like, oh, that's Horsaki. I was like, no, that's not Horsaki. There's real deals in this stuff. A lot of what they're filming and what they're showing is produced, right? Yeah. But the legends are real. And
well, when I was growing up, we were taught, and when I was growing up as a kid, we were made to believe by our parents and even our grandparents that monsters didn't exist. They were myth and folklore. And when you find out that they do exist. It
Yes.
really changes your mind and makes you think. And your average person that's riding down the road, 40-hour-a-week guy that's trying to take care of his family, him and his wife working, and they don't think anything about this kind of stuff. They don't have time to
Mm-mm.
think about it. And, they have no idea what's in the woods. They have no idea
Yeah.
whatsoever. And all these things aren't just deep in the forest. They're close by towns and
No,
cities
they
too.
are.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah. I'm getting
There's a
calls. How many calls I got from an area? A lady kept calling me. Man, I'm watching this creature at 2:30 in the morning. I'm sitting on my deck smoking a cigarette across the road from it. And I'm watching this creature go behind the restaurant across the street from me, open the dumpster, and get out a bag of trash and walk off into the woods with it.
yeah.
And I went up there 3 times. She kept calling me. You got to come see it. I said, I believe you, ma'am. I just don't have time to get up there. And you
Yeah.
got to come. You got to come and see it. I want you to come see it. So I finally went up there. Didn't see anything. And then I went back again, and I did see it. So it was a Bigfoot. Come in and got a bag of scraps out of the trash can. So an easy meal. So
Easy meal. Didn't have to run.
no. And these creatures are everywhere. I mean, don't be fooled to think they're not close by, because they are. And I've heard of them in subdivisions. I mean, houses
Yeah. Well, we've got
everywhere.
woods. Yeah, we've got woods up behind us, and we have noises up behind us.
I've heard
And
some
we're
noises.
in Metro Birmingham.
Yeah. I got lost in the Blue Ridge Mountains back in 2021. I was lost in there for 3 nights and 4 days. And
Oh wow, that's a long
I
time to
have
be out
never
lost.
ever heard noises like I heard in my life in those mountains. I have no
Really?
idea what some of these things are. I heard noises that I don't know what it was. It was crazy stuff. And
Like what? I mean, what sounds
just
were they?
all kinds of noises, like loud screams. It sounded like almost like a dinosaur. Some of them did.
Really?
That I've heard. Just all kinds of weird noises. And I was,
That could have been a big cat though, couldn't it? Because they have kind of that deep barrel
yeah,
chested
it
roar.
was different than that. I can't
Oh
explain
wow.
what I'm talking about. And I made a big mistake. I went in there to meet a couple that wanted me to meet them there in the Shenandoah National Park. They had called me all summer and wanted me to meet them and see the area about 3 miles in, that they had a Bigfoot family. They wanted me to see them, and I told them I'd seen them before, but they wanted me to come, and they knew who I was. They were one of my people that followed me, and I went up there, and they didn't show up. And I walked on up in the woods where they told me where these creatures were, and thinking they would just come up, pull up and come on up, and they never did. And I got back in there pretty far, and it got dark on me, and I had a little bit of gear with me. I had a little backpack and matches and a heat blanket and a few things, little snacks and water. But left my gun in the truck. But wasn't planning on being there long, 2 or 3 hours, and
Yeah.
got off trail up in there and got lost. And my
Wow.
granddad always told me, find a waterway and follow it. It'll take you to civilization. That's what I did. And I camped on the river at night. I slept under a log one night and had all kinds of animals walking around. I could hear them.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. There was all kinds of crazy stuff in there. I didn't want the animals to know where I was, because I didn't know for sure
Yeah.
what they were. And they
Sure.
probably knew where I was.
Well, they would smell you.
But I hit up a tree a couple of times and got up in the top of one, and there was some crazy stuff in there. I don't know what all of it was. I wish I could have seen some of it. Some of it, I'm glad I didn't see it. It didn't sound real friendly.
Yeah.
And but anyway, I got my way out of there. But I've done some crazy things over the years, so I advise everybody to always carry a personal beacon with them when they go in, and always let somebody know where they're at and when they plan on coming back out.
Have you been up and done any work with that Olympia project?
No, I was asked a couple years ago, but I just haven't got that far. That's out in Washington.
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate. I was asked to speak at, to be at Beachfoot this last 2 years, and I really wanted to go to that. It was out in Oregon. Ron went and spoke, and they only invite the top 100 people in the world to that event. And I was asked a couple times by Todd, and real honored that I was invited, but just couldn't get there. But I'm planning on getting there sooner or later. It's just been so far across the country for us. We hadn't had a chance to
Well,
get
it
there.
is, yeah. About as far as you can go and not get wet.
We usually have a lot of conferences too in the summer, so that makes it a little difficult too. Getting away that long, because I've got quite a few conferences already lined up for this year. We've got our first one coming up in the 6th or 7th, I believe, of February in Cadiz, Kentucky. So Martin Groves and I will be there, and Steve Causey and quite a few other people in the Bigfoot world will be on. There's a radio show there. It's going to do a special there in a distillery in Cadiz, Kentucky. So, but we do a lot of stuff, around the area and across the country. It's a lot of fun. It takes a lot of time, and anybody thinks you make money out of this stuff, good luck. Let me know how to do it. So
I know, right?
Yeah, everybody thinks you're rich, especially so many people reach out to me and tell me that all kinds of stuff, about, well, you make a lot of money, you're a legend. Really, let me know where it went if I made it, because
yeah,
make much on this.
Somebody forgot to mail that check.
They really did, yeah.
but I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to just say that, my friend Jonathan Odom down here used to do Talladega National Forest. And
Talladega's got a lot of sightings.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. And he used to, because he would go by himself, he'd go during the day, he'd be filming or whatever, and because he would get a lot of interaction. And he would always, as he was coming out, put the camera on his shoulder, looking over his shoulder as he went out. And I was sitting there one afternoon, and I just happened to be online. I was looking at it. And as he's walking away, there's a juvenile that was, I thought it was a bush. It was just, squatted down by the tree.
Yeah.
And as he's walking out, it gets up and goes the other way around the tree and leaves. And I'm like, and I thought that I had told him that, but I had him on a while back, and he's doing volunteerism, and he started a foundation for humans. But I said, that I watched you come out of Talladega one afternoon. He said, yeah. I was like, did you know that there was a juvenile that was squatted by the tree behind you as you came out? And there was nothing between you and it on that trail as you were leaving, and it got up and turned around and walked away behind the tree on its own trail. And he was like, really? I thought I told you that. I'm sorry. But it's probably still on your Facebook if you go look at it. But it was so funny because there's so many people that do this. I have a lot of friends who do this. And I'm a great big sissy girl. I do not, my idea of roughing it is in the lobby of the Holiday Inn.
That's okay. Yeah. I'd be honest with you. And I'm not by any means a male chauvinist, but I won't hardly take a woman in the woods because I know what these creatures are capable of. And I also know that they like women. So, especially one that's on that time of month, you don't want them in the woods at all. So, I've got friends that have been terrified by these things, by just that happening. And it's really kind of dangerous to take a woman in the woods, I think. But
well, I think that when you get to a certain point, that a lot of that danger lessens. And I think that they recognize also age, because I would not put up any pheromones that would get somebody riled up.
I understand what you're saying, but I've had older women.
But I wouldn't do it.
I've had older women they were attracted to too, and I know that because they've contacted me. And
Yeah.
They just seem, just to give you an idea, the female Bigfoot, Sasquatch, forest people, whatever you call them, and I do think there's different types, and I think they're
I
different
do.
type of them, but the females are more friendly with me. They always have been. I don't know why that is, but they always have been. The female have been more friendly. The same thing with the male Bigfoot is more friendly with the human woman, and maybe it's just nature. I don't know, but
Could be.
I know that
Well,
that's the case that
there's
it is.
with humans, there's an interesting dynamic along those same lines, though, because I tend to get along. I grew up with boys, right?
Yep.
And I tend to get along really well with men because, we had 3 girls in our neighborhood. And if you have 3 girls, there's always one, somebody's always odd man out.
Yeah.
So we all had our
I
turn being
understand
odd
that.
man out.
Yeah, I understand
So,
that. Yeah.
so we hung out with the guys when it was our turn. But it was so interesting because I interviewed this young woman. She was actually the Olympic group's Bigfoot Researcher of the Year. Shelby, I can't remember her name. I hate when I do that. But when I talked to her, her husband had fixed a rig up for her where she was on top of a van. And she was in, what forest is that up there? Olympic?
Yeah, Olympic National Forest, yeah.
And she was working up there. She's from Texas. And I was just like, do you feel safe when you're out there? She's like, well, I'm off the ground now. And I said, but it's a tent. You're a woman, you're out there, it's a tent. And, the safety factor, like you said, women are, I know that women and men are on a very equal plane in most ways. Body strength is not one of them.
Right.
And speed is not one of them.
Right.
And, if you got in a bind and something was attacking you, there wouldn't be a way to go, really. And because I have heard of doors being lifted off of vehicles, yanked off of vehicles. And what are you going to do?
Well, give you an idea, a lot of the areas that I've researched over the years, and some of them, I mean, real deep in the woods. I'm maybe 7, 8 miles in, and nothing but remote. I've seen trees as big as my leg just twisted like a twig, where they just twisted them for a marker. And anything that's got that type of strength that can do that,
yes,
is incredible. And I see all those trees. As a matter of fact, I have people send me trees all the time. And I know you see them that are implanted upside down in the ground too. And Alaska's full of those. But some in the U.S. around the states are like that too. They find them like that, but not as much as they do in Alaska. And I can't even imagine the amount of strength it takes to do that.
No.
First of all, you're trying to pick up a 1,000-pound log and jam it into the ground. So, it's unimaginable of what our minds wrap around. It doesn't work. And the abilities that these creatures have, I have no doubt when you get out of your vehicle, they know you're there. They can see.
Oh, yeah.
They can see a mile away. They can smell you. They
Definitely
can hear
the smell.
And people tell me, "Well, hide your gun." Well, let me tell you about hiding your gun. If you fired that gun the last couple of months, you're going to have residue powder on the barrel. They can smell that. So,
yeah,
so you can't trick them. You really can't.
Well,
they're
do you think that Do you think they're mystical?
What do you mean by mystical? Interdimensional?
Do you think that? Well, interdimensional is another thing, but do you think that they have abilities? Well, obviously they do, but do they pop in and out? Are they there all the time? Are they, which would be dimensional, I guess? But
yeah, I do think some of them have that ability. I don't know that all of them do. I've seen one that I was very close to walk behind a tree, a big tree in the middle of the woods. And,
okay.
It walked behind the tree. There was no brush, nothing else around. This was just a tree in the middle of nowhere by itself, and it never came out, and it never
Mhm.
went anywhere because I would have seen it. There was no way it could have went anywhere. So Ron Moorhead, he has a book called Quantum Bigfoot. It's the physics
Yes.
of how the higher energy goes, and I've read that book 5 times. Every time I read it, I learn a little more. And Ron and I have a show together on Monday nights called Two Cryptid Legends, and we talk about that a lot because I think the higher dimensions and the higher energy these things have causes a higher vibration that can possibly. That's why the pictures a lot of times are blurry of these things, and they have a way to possibly change into another dimension, maybe an orb or some type of other creature, possibly. But I have no doubt I was in an area of Cheatham County that I 100% believe the Bigfoot that we were around there had the abilities to turn into orbs and turn into possible smaller creatures.
Well, that's cool.
It was just too weird to the things I experienced there for them not to know. It was just strange. It would take a while to tell that story, but it was very weird how that happened. And that's the same area when I got run out of there by so many orbs coming at, just flying all around us. I just had
oh my gosh.
I had to quit going in there a while, me and Billy Howell, and I went to my house and I said, I'm going to take a break for a couple of weeks. That place is getting too crazy for me. And that's when the Bigfoot started attacking my house.
Oh my gosh.
And I'd never done anything to cause them to do that. But I had 2 or 3 rogue Bigfoot that went on in my house for about 2.5 months. And I had a horse that was a full-blooded stallion, and nobody could touch him but me. The farrier would come, he couldn't touch him. Nobody in my family, my daughter couldn't even touch him, and she's good with horses. And I went out one morning, my horse is, he'll walk up to me, but nobody else. And he was standing there with his hair braided.
Get out.
I'm not lying, no, sure did. I called the sheriff's department and told them to come out and check it out, all the tracks that were around the stable where these creatures were coming in and scaring my horses to death.
And they braided his mane.
Well, yeah, they braided all his hair on his mane. And nobody else could have done it. And those creatures have the ability. It's probably kind of like when I've been zapped twice by Bigfoot, and I've been zapped once by a dog man. And a zapping or infrasound, whatever you want to call it. Your legs go numb, you can't hardly walk, you can't hardly move, and your stomach is upset, you got a headache. And that's the way it is with Bigfoot. Dogman's the same way, except you have your chest feels like somebody's standing on it instead of a stomach issue. And maybe that's how they do the horse. They freeze him where he can't move. And that's all I can figure. But I couldn't believe that anything could braid this horse's mane, but it did.
That's amazing. And so very cool.
Well, it's almost a little frightening if you think about it, because anything that has that type of power and ability, if it can do that to a 1,500-pound horse, what can it do to a 250-pound man like me? So it's pretty amazing that the abilities these creatures have. I never get, every time I hear something different about them, it just amazes me, some of the things they're able to do. And
well, for somebody that doesn't like getting exposed to these things, I love the topic. And I've talked to some other interesting guests about this too. But I have had the best time with you. But we have a question that just came into chat a minute ago.
Yeah, sure.
And I want to go to it. And hey, Sue, it's good to see you. But have you ever recorded audio of their speech? It would be interesting to compare to the recordings made by others. And Sue, it's good to see you here. But have you ever recorded?
No, I haven't. And the ones on the river are the only ones. And I've heard the other ones make noises and, make vocals. But The ones on the river would do that on occasion, but I never recorded any of it. Back in that time, that was in, you know, early 2004 was the last time that I was around those creatures, and
Yeah.
I never took any type of device in there and did that. No, but of course, Ron Moorhead, my best friend and my partner on our radio podcast show, he's got the Sierra Sounds. I don't think you'll hear anything better than those. So,
Oh, cool.
Are you familiar with the Sierra Sounds?
I am not.
You've got to hear the Sierra Sounds. If you want to hear some real vocals, he's the man who was there at the camp in the Sierra Nevada mountains in their hunting party in 1971. And these creatures were scaring them to death. They actually built a fort around a tree to keep them from coming in on them. And they were really loud and big. And yeah, look up the Sierra Sounds. I've got a copy of it right behind me here, but of course there's no way to play it. But
yeah,
it's called Ron Moorhead, the Sierra Sounds. If you're a member of my group, I got it posted in our group. You can listen to it in there. But
I'm pretty sure I'm a member of your group because that's how I found you.
Yeah, because Ron is also one of my admin, him and Martin are. But Sierra Sounds is the most well-known vocals in the world of Sasquatch talking and speaking, and it's been examined by so many different people to try to debunk it, and nobody could ever figure out how in the world that it could have been done by nothing but these type creatures. So,
well, I'll tell you, I was up in Zion National Park just for a day last summer, and just up there, there's no way anybody could get through every place there. It's the West really fascinates me. And I go down, I go down to the, like I went down toward Area 51, and I was so shocked that there's such a amazing greenscape just in the middle of a desert. Is
that out in Nevada?
It is Nevada, yeah. Well, actually, Zion, I think you go into the next state because I didn't drive that one. But sometimes I rent a car and sometimes I just take tours. But it's really interesting to me, the environments that are out there, that there's no way anybody could get all the way through. And there's caverns, and there's, we have caverns here.
Well, there's a lot of caves, the Tennessee, Kentucky area,
yes.
and Alabama's full of caves. So,
yeah,
one of the largest cave systems in America. But, there's so much. I have so many people that want me to look at things they've got and come to their area. I wish I had time to do all of them, because there's some pretty strange occurrences going around the country now, and the sightings have become a lot more than they once were too. And you're hearing of more people seeing these creatures, and I seen a crawler in the LBL March 24, and I've never seen one of those before.
What do you think that is?
I don't know.
I mean, where do you think a crawler came from?
I have no
Crawlers
idea.
Crawlers freak me out. I do not like that.
It was really nasty looking. It was skinny like a bone, and it might have weighed 60 pounds, 5 foot long maybe. But it ran up a tree, and it started clicking at one behind me, and the other one was in the woods that was communicating with it. And I don't know. We got out of there, but
I wouldn't want to be tag teamed by that.
They were afraid that they were trying to surround us, but that's the first time I'd ever seen one of those. So there's a lot more.
That was your first time?
I've seen a crawler, yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Never seen one. I've heard of them and had people send me pictures, but I've never seen one in person. So I've seen a lot of Bigfoot and 4 dog men, but I've never seen a crawler before.
I don't think I would want that opportunity. So,
well, I think we were actually looking for it. It just happened to be on the trail we were on.
And that's why I don't go by myself on trails. So,
especially at nighttime, and especially in LBL.
Well, I would not.
run into anything.
I would not be out by myself. I am a great big, I'm not a scaredy cat, but I have a really healthy respect for not just what would be anomalous out there, but for just the wildlife that's natural, that's known. I
think you probably you would get along real well with my lady. She won't go in the woods for anything. So
I'll go in, but I'm going to be.
She'd rather be watching a movie back at the room instead of going into the woods.
Well, now I have done that, but I would go and investigate, but I would go armed. I would not be unarmed, and I would have spray too. I mean, because I don't want to hurt anything that just doesn't understand, right? But I would not want to be hurt either.
Well, you got to be very cautious. You really do.
Yeah.
I suggest anybody to go in the woods never go by themselves. You're better off with 3 people or 2 people. 2 at the least, 3 at the most. 3 is better.
3 is always better.
Yeah, the more people, the better chances that you're not going to be bothered by something, because they're going to number out one person. The creatures are, but a couple of people or 3 people, they're a little more cautious.
Yeah, I was at a place up in it was still Georgia. It wasn't North Carolina yet, and we were out in the woods, investigating and experiencing, and they got rocking. And I was like, "Well, we're done here."
I've been around some areas like that.
Yeah, I was done, but we are just about out of time. I am so glad that
my phone is about to go out. I was about to try to find a charger over here. So anyway,
well, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me. I've enjoyed being here, and thanks for everybody watching tonight. That is, and I hope you'll come and check out our channel, the Bigfoot Believers and Other Creatures, and.
Yeah.
Appreciate everyone watching, and thank you very much for having me on, Kat.
Well, you know what? I saw that y'all were having an event that I was talking to my husband about. I may wind up showing up sometime.
That'd be great. Come over.
I will. But thank you again. And for everyone listening, I appreciate all of you. And, this has been something that's fascinating to me because it's not my color Kool-Aid. But I so admire the people that do it because there's a lot to learn. And you're doing a great job. You're doing a really great job.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Talk to you next time.
Sure.
And good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
I will. Bye.